Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to Upkick MMA, episode 249. I am Brendan. UFC 287, Pinheiro versus Adesanya prelims. We're going to handle the prelims here. If you're looking for the main card in the main event, that's in the last video. We're going to break down all the fights from the prelims. Kelvin Gastelum, Chris Curtis, Luana Pinheiro versus Michell, Waterson-Gomez. We're going to cover all those fights here, break them down round by round. Real quick, before we get started, if you like this stuff, you like this channel, I do hope you would subscribe. It would mean a lot to me. It would mean you would know when the next video is coming out, and I'd really appreciate it. Thank you very much. All right. If you're looking for a specific fight breakdown, timestamps are down below. Let's get started, shall we? Chris Curtis versus Kelvin Gastelum. This is unfortunate. It's not unfortunate that, by the way, if you only watch the main event or the main card, prelims are worth it. In fact, this whole card, there is enough there to keep you interested the entire time. I do recommend it. So it's worth it. Go in there, check it out. I think it was good. This fight especially. So if you don't want to watch anything, you only want to pick out the best fights, I honestly think this was the best. It got fight of the night, and rightfully so. They threw down. There was enough technical striking in here to really bring it home for the hardcores. There was enough just flat out damage and big swinging looping hit. There was enough here for everybody. I think there was a lot to enjoy, a lot to take away, and we're going to get into it. The unfortunate part of this, like I said at the beginning, is the fact that one of them had to lose, right? I'm a Kelvin Gastelum fan, and I'm becoming a Chris Curtis fan, and Chris Curtis is not the youngest fighter. He's really only got one real shot at the title, can't take significant losses. I don't think this is going to hurt his credibility that much. I think if he can get another fight in the top 15, I think he could break the top 15 and finally get past that. He stepped up on short notice and took that Jack Hermanson fight and didn't go his way. But I do feel that he has the skills to pay the bills. No, but I think he does have the skills to succeed here, and maybe given the right matchups against the right people, he could possibly get a title shot. But he's only got really like a year, maybe 2 years at the max, probably of being able to do that. That's why this is unfortunate, because Kelvin Gastelum is coming off of what, three losses in a row? 2 losses. My bad. Because he had the win against Ian Heinisch, but before that he had 3 losses in a row: Adesanya, Darren Till, and Jack Hermanson. Split decision against Darren Till in a fight that it was pretty close, right? And Kelvin Gastelum, I think I scored it for him. I didn't pull up my card from that, but I believe he got that one. The Jack Hermanson one, that was unfortunate. It was in the first round. Got caught by a heel hook. Robert Whittaker. Dude, everybody loses to Robert Whittaker, not named Israel Adesanya. It is what it is. He is clearing out the division for Izzy and not giving Izzy anybody to, people have to jump him. They're just going to have to jump him. They might even come off a loss to him to get a title shot. It's just the way it is. And then he fought Jared Cannonier, again, a guy who just came off a title shot himself, made a good account for himself. So he's fighting some of the best guys, and that's what's causing him to get some of these losses. And he goes and fights Chris Curtis here and gets a great win. I would argue that this looked like vintage Kelvin Gastelum with his cardio, his boxing, obviously his chin. In the first round here, Kelvin was being a little silly, winding up, the big wind up, doing some fun stuff, staying loose, landing some good low kicks. And then I said, holy shit, Curtis landed a 1-2 that hit so hard. Kelvin is alive because of his chin. No joke. Kelvin's chin got him out of a lot of problems here. Curtis was able to find his chin. It's just Gastelum was able to take it. Kelvin landed a 1-2 really hard. They both were landing hard back and forth. Kelvin landed a nice low kick, then a left hand. He was landing hard as well. Curtis landed a low kick of his own. The low kick then followed up from Kelvin. I know it sounds like I'm repeating stuff. This is not. This is the way it was going back and forth. Both guys landing hard. Kelvin just landed more of it. I feel like this first round went to Kelvin because of volume. They both landed really hard shots. They both looked like neither one of them was rocked, so I don't want to go out and say that, but they both looked at points like they were going to put it together, and then now they're going to be working for the finish, and then nope, Curtis just comes back, or Kelvin Gastelum comes back. And that's what happens. You can see it played out here in the striking numbers, 30-13 in favor of Gastelum. He also mixed it up really well, which Curtis did not. Relatively, technically speaking, he mixed it up as well to the legs and the head as Gastelum did. He just didn't put the volume out there, right? He only landed 4 leg kicks and eight shots to the head. They were hard, but Kelvin Gastelum landed just as many hard shots, and he landed more overall. So I gave him that first round 10-9. We'll look at the scorecards after this together. Curtis was throwing some nasty hooks, and he finally landed one. Kelvin was throwing heavy. He was missing big, and he was swinging big and missing big as well. Kelvin appears to hurt Curtis with a headbutt, which was unfortunate, but it just the way it happened. And then he was on his back, laying out some damage. It wasn't caught in time. Wasn't caught at all. The commentary team is the one who brought it up. Kelvin was bouncing around, staying really light on his feet, and then Gastelum landed hard, stayed in the pocket. Curtis landed to the body, and then a 1-2 upstairs. There's a nice body shot from Curtis, then a hook up top. Kelvin with some snappy jabs and a great 1-2. Big exchange to end the round. I still had to go for Kelvin. I felt like he kept in front the whole time. He was just ahead in the striking just a little bit, right? 23-20 is how I had it for him. But this second round, you could make the argument that without the headbutt, Gastelum might not have won that. But that's the thing, though, is after the headbutt, he was on his back, landing some damage because of it. And that damage still counts because the headbutt didn't cause a pause, right? So it's unfortunate that it didn't get caught in time and that we had a continuation in the fight. So that's why you got to give it to Gastelum, right? You got to think of, like, from the judge's point of view, they don't know, they don't have instant replay, they don't see that stuff. I could see them giving him the second round. The second round went to Gastelum in my opinion anyway, but I could see if someone did catch that, possibly leaning towards Curtis, but I don't think so. Last round here, low kicks from Kelvin were really starting to add up. Kelvin was landing first and with more variety and put him out ahead in this last round, but then Curtis started landing hard as hell. His volume wasn't there early on in this round, and then he started to turn it up. Kelvin landed 2 left hands and a nice right behind it. Then Curtis started to turn it up. He landed some really hard shots. Kelvin looked to be slightly compromised at one point. Then he started bouncing around and coming back. This is the best round for Curtis with the body shots, taking a toll on Kelvin, eating so many shots. Gastelum ate so much in this last round. I had to give this last round to Curtis. What a fucking great fight this was. 29-28 for Gastelum. Kelvin was fired up with a great win. I didn't give him all 3 rounds, but one of the judges did. Look at this last round here, 37-30 in favor of Curtis. You look at him, he really mixed it up well, especially going to the body, digging hard, 11 shots. To the head, they were both about even. It's those extra 7 shots that he threw to the body that made the difference there, in my opinion. The leg kicks were there for Gastelum, but Curtis wasn't going to the well as far as that. Looking at the scorecards, let's just get that real quick here. Seeing how they scored it. Yeah, it's about right. Eric Colin here and Derek Cleary. But they got it right, in my opinion, right? I'm not the end-all, be-all, but I would say that they got it right. Michael Tate here, again, fan of Kelvin Gastelum. I'm a fan of both these guys. I don't see how you give him that last round. He was compromised. He was hurt. Curtis was landing the better shots, and he landed more. Even without the numbers, just looking at it, I don't know how you give that to him. I don't. I just don't. So it's unfortunate that it worked out that way for Curtis, just the matchups wise, right? This isn't to say that like they had a bad fight. They didn't. He made a great account for himself, and I hope that it doesn't hurt his stock very much. But the problem is it's a loss, right? And this was 14 versus 15 here. Kelvin Gastelum, listen, this might sound like I'm gushing a little bit. I'm a huge Gastelum fan. I think if he still fought at 170, he would be in the mix, if not the champion, at some point already. I really do. The way that he fought Tyron Woodley and got that split decision loss, which was total garbage, and then he had the weight miss issues, so that he moved up to 185. I think if at 170 he's a world champion. It's not a fit for his lifestyle, his body style, like this. As he's getting older, cutting weights harder, I'm not begrudging him to go down to 170, but he brought all those skills to 185, and he really took it to Adesanya, right? We all remember that fight for both fighters, how close it was to being stopped in both ways. I think Gastelum has the skills, the wherewithal to be a champion at middleweight, but the clock's ticking. And he's got to put some wins together. And, having him fight Whitaker and Jared Cannonier, I get it. He had his opportunities to go fight for a title, but here's the thing. Looking at a Whitaker loss now is almost like a loss to the champion, right? Because that's what we've seen, right? Cannonier had a loss to Whitaker, and he still gets a title shot. Freaking Alex Pinheiro freaking skips Whitaker because they have a feeling that that's not going to be a good matchup for him. Who else has done it? Marvin Vettori. Yeah, he lost to Whitaker afterwards, though. But that's the thing is, these people are going to lose to Whitaker. This is a very Max Holloway, Alexander Volkanovski situation, right? This is a Demetrius Johnson situation where you have a champion who's dominant over the number one guy, the number one contender, and the number one contender is just able to beat everybody else in the division. What are you supposed to do there? So I think Kelvin Gastelum could get a title shot with two more good wins here, one being in the top 15 and then maybe a top 10 or a top 5 win. I think he absolutely could get a title shot in this division. I think it's ripe for it. He has the storyline. If Adesanya is still the champion, I think putting him against somebody up there and giving him a highlight win puts that story together. He did have a competitive fight in which he could have taken out the current champion, and that's enough to build a storyline around, a rematch around, and I think it's absolutely in the cards for him to get that. Time is ticking. And the same for Curtis. The exact things I just said about Gastelum as far as the recent stuff, right? Not Kelvin Gastelum's history at 170. Curtis' current predicament, I think he's in the same boat. And Kelvin Gastelum, unfortunately, was one of those steps that Curtis needed to take, and he just didn't make it. Right? I do think Curtis has the skills with the right matchups. He's definitely a problem. Look what he did with Gastelum. Do you think that a lot of people in this 185 division could take those shots from Curtis? I don't think so. Gastelum has a famous chin, how good it is. That's what kept him in this fight. Obviously, his skills and everything else, but he took plenty of shots that should have put mere mortals out. And he does that to other people in this division. He can put them out. We've seen it, right? So, again, I hope it doesn't hurt his stock, and I hope Gastelum gets his way to a title shot. I think him being in the title contention, it's more interesting for the division, having another fresh contender in there, someone with a good storyline against Adesanya, because we're kind of fresh out, right? We don't have anybody who put on competitive fights other than Whitaker in that second fight, and he's already lost to him twice, and it's really hard to push that narrative that, I lost the first 2 times, even if you thought he won the second one, but a loss is a loss, and it's really hard to push that narrative. So for a third fight, I think Gastelum has a good storyline here, and he could go for it. So let me know what you guys think. Am I playing this up too much? Also, the fact that this wasn't on the main card of the pay-per-view is bullshit. I mentioned it in my last video. Raul Rosas Jr. Getting the main card treatment because he's 19 or 18 years old. I get it. The UFC wants to push a thing, whatever. This belonged there. Or give it its own, it should have been a 5-rounder. There should have been a 5-rounder on a fight night, whatever it might be. These guys absolutely deserve the respect and the treatment of at least being on the main card. Being the feature prelim does mean a little bit, but I agree with Curtis here. It's kind of bullshit that he got forced onto the prelims because of some 18-year-old kid. I already said my piece on that last night. We don't have to go into it again. Michelle Waterson-Gomez taking on Luana Pinheiro. So we'll talk about this one. We'll talk about how I scored it. We'll talk about it round by round here, and then we'll go over the judges' scorecards. This one, I have a little bit to say on this one. Distance control, decent for Waterson, staying on the outside, using kicks, a great spinning elbow, probably one of the best shots of the match. It was hard. And it landed right on the chin. Yes, it didn't rock her, but it did a ton of damage. And Pinheiro was swinging hard, but missing with those giant punches. The low kicks have landed a bit. Great front kick from Waterson, knocks Pinheiro off her feet. That's always a good sign when you're just kicking her and flinging her around. Great high kick from Waterson. That was knocked her off her feet. Sorry. Pinheiro landing a couple hard shots, trying to steal the round, but nothing clean enough to take it, in my opinion. I had it 10-9 for Waterson. So if you look at the striking numbers here, 20-15, she mixed it up real well. She hit the same amount to the head, same amount to the body, and landed 5 more leg kicks. This is a Michelle Waterson round, and if you want to call damage even because of the last couple shots landed by Pinheiro, then you got to go with control time. And yes, there was nobody on the ground. I don't know what this 1 second is. I don't know what the hell that is. But the control time, the octagon control, that went to Waterson for pushing and keeping the distance and pushing her back. I felt like she was in control, and I had her doing more damage. So that's why I gave her the first round anyway. So I had her 10-9. Nice right hand from Waterson-Gomez, then a front kick to the face. She landed that. She's landing with volume, and she's landing really hard shots. Pinheiro was landing with a right low kick, making Waterson have to move. The way the commentary is talking, they must really want Pinheiro to win. So I did notice some commentary bias. I don't know if that's because they are on a push, like externally. God dang, focus, camera. I don't know if it's because they're on a promotional push for her, or if there's a couple things that they picked up when they watched some film, and they kind of just, they get that one thing stuck in their head, and when you find out a new word or you find a cool analogy, you tend to use it in your life a lot, and then you look back, you're like, oh man, I keep saying this, I sound so stupid. If maybe you're not like me, but I do that all the time, where I pick up an analogy and I start using it too much, and then I have to dial it back. The same thing happens with commentary. They pick up on some key factors of a fight. They pick up on some movements or some striking, something that they like, and then that's what they hammer on. And they kept talking about Luana like she was just walking away with this one. Waterson's left leg was hurting, but she's also landing really well, and Pinheiro was landing nothing else. Pinheiro landed a right hand and pushing in. She pushed her to the fence at one point. Waterson landed at range, in tight, and she landed a great elbow. And Pinheiro lands a nice left, and Waterson lands right back, and then follows up with a hard right hand. Hard to score the second round. If you listen to their commentary, it's all Pinheiro, but I don't see I don't see it. Right, I had the striking in favor of Waterson. I thought she got the better exchanges. I thought she landed more damage. If you look at the striking numbers here, so total strikes in this round, where are the total strikes? She landed 2 more total strikes, right? She threw more in here, so she threw out more offense, and she landed the same. So 19-19, dead even. If you just go by strikes landed and you think that the damage went in favor of Pinheiro, I totally understand. I just don't feel like it was in her favor. It was close. It was a close round. You might have thought that way, and that's okay. So you gave her this round, understandable. But I will tell you that so sorry guys, if you watch me, I brought this up. I brought this example up. If you throw out more offense than someone and you land the same amount, you're going to win the round because you're actively throwing more offense out there. You're trying to finish the fight more often than the other fighter is. It's just, I know it seems silly and stupid, but when you come down to everything else being even, if you throw more punches at me than I throw at you, and that's a difference maker, then you're the winner of that round. So I had her up 20-18. I could see it being 19-19 going to the third. I have no problem with Pinheiro getting this round. I just didn't score it that way. Waterson changed levels, and Luana moved in and got her down momentarily, then got right to the body lock. Waterson was walking her down, landing more front kicks and leg kicks. Waterson ended the round getting the takedown and being the aggressor in the clinch, and I thought that was her fight. I had her up 30-27. Look at this last round here, 22-10 as far as the striking numbers. The damage definitely in her favor. You want to look at control time, a minute of control time to the 37 seconds of Pinheiro. You want to look at where the strikes were landed. Maybe you think, oh, well, Pinheiro landed more strikes to the head, and that's more damage. Absolutely not. She only landed 2 of those. She landed 6 shots to the body and 2 leg kicks, whereas Waterson-Gomez landed twice as many shots to the head, 5 times as many shots to the leg, and 2 more body shots. So this last round was Waterson-Gomez. So if you gave Pinheiro that second round, that's fine. It's still 29-28. And let's go look at the scorecards because Pinheiro got the win, right? Pinheiro got the win here. So we had Alicio Rodriguez. I've never seen that name before, so it might be a Florida special here. Gave Luana the first and second round. I don't think so. Christopher Lee, I have seen that one, gave the first and the second round to Luana. I don't agree with that either. Like I said, I had that first round for Waterson-Gomez. And then Eric Colon gave that first round to Pinheiro. Am I off my rocker? And he gave the second round to Gomez. I thought the second round was the one I could give to Pinheiro. Like, that's fine. And the last round was definitely Gomez. It's the second round. I thought that was Gomez's. Or the first round I thought was Gomez's. Did I miss something in the first round here? She outstruck her, outdamaged her, landed the same to the head, more to the legs. You know what? Because one big punch from Pinheiro, Waterson-Gomez landed that big elbow. She landed plenty of big shots. I don't know. That stinks of recency bias to me. That stinks of they saw a strike later on that stuck in their mind rather than the earlier one. What is Mina doing? Mina, just stop it. Go on, get. Dog. I gotta clean out their crates. Okay. As far as the rankings go, this was important. Okay, this was important here because Pinheiro was 15 and Waterson-Gomez was 10. Waterson-Gomez is not a spring chicken anymore. She's not old by any means. She's not old, but I don't see her. How old? She's in her 30s, right? Yeah, she's in mid-30s. So, you know, she's not 40 yet. She still has some time, but I just don't see her. I don't know how she comes back from this. Right? How many more wins? Like, how many more times is this going to happen? So, she gets a bad split decision loss, in which I disagree with. Angela Hill's had this problem too, where she had some bad split decisions, and she's never challenging for the number one spot. And I know they're the old guard, and I know they're trying to push the new names. I get that, but there's also a time for that, and a time for, hey, this fighter won this fight. They did the things they needed to do to win this fight, and let's not disrespect them by putting them out to pasture prematurely. Come on. That's not cool. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with the decision there. I think they got that one wrong. Let me know what you guys thought. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe that first round, maybe I missed something. Maybe I looked away. Maybe I didn't see something. I could be convinced otherwise. Maybe I'm probably not going to go back and watch it. But if somebody says something and says, like, points, if you can point to a specific point in that first round where it was obvious that Luana did more damage, I'm more than welcome to change my mind. I just didn't see it scoring it live. Unfortunate for Waterson-Gomez. Gerald Meerschaert versus Joe Pyfer. Oh boy. Fight didn't last very long, did it? Yikes. Gerald Meerschaert. What? He's a streaky fighter, right? He'll win one, lose one, win one, lose two, win two, lose two, win two, lose one, win three, lose one, win one, lose one, right? He's what we call like the litmus test, right? And that's not to denigrate his abilities as a fighter or to be dismissive of his possibility to be a contender. That's not what I'm trying to do. It's just, given all the evidence that we have, seeing him fight in the UFC for the past 7 years, it looks like he's the acid test. He's a tough out. If you can go out there and beat him, you might be ready for the next level. We saw it with Hamzat. They did it to him with Ian Heinisch. Krzysztof Jotko, who's no longer in the UFC. And then now with Joe Pyfer. Joe Pyfer just went out here, moved forward, hard low kicks, both guys throwing one at a time, not landing a ton of volume. And then Pyfer landed a hard right hand. Gerald was somehow still in there after that, but then he landed a hard left and a hard right, and he was down. Gerald was not fighting back. He was down on the ground for quite a bit. It was one of those ones where I'm like, he actively doesn't want to be in there. It's okay to call this one, guys. He's not intelligently defending himself. I thought that one could be stopped a little bit earlier than it was. I'm all for a definitive finish, and I think we got it. I think we could get that. So Joe Pyfer's the real deal. Let's see what he does when he steps up to the next level. Cynthia Calvillo versus Loopy Godinez. Good fight. Good fight. Like I said, the prelims are good. Godinez was throwing the fights were not necessarily decisions. Godinez was throwing 3 or 4 hooks when she entered. She was landing pretty well. Calvillo was just not landing her shots much. She was out. She was reaching a lot in this round. I just didn't feel like she was doing a lot early on, and Loopy was landing some really great right hands. Calvillo got the body lock takedown momentarily. Loopy got up with no damage. The round was Loopy with the damage on the feet for sure. So if you look at the striking numbers, they weren't that far apart. It was 19-18 in favor of Godinez. I felt like she landed more damage though, right? The jab from Calvillo, which started to work later in the fight, we saw hints of it here. That's just not as damaging as the stuff that Godinez was landing, and that's why I gave her that first round. Calvillo was landing counters in this second round with Godinez not as active. She was clearly tired, right? She was not throwing as much as often. And maybe this is a disparity because if you look at the striking numbers here, she actually threw more strikes. It didn't look like early on she was not. Yeah, Calvillo was landing more, using push kicks to keeping the range. Loopy Godinez turns up the pressure and the output with about 1:40 left, but Calvillo was still outlanding her. So she did turn it up eventually. I'm not crazy. Calvillo used her range way better in the second round, kept the volume high. I gave it to her, not as I had it 19-19 going to the third. You look at the striking numbers, 38-32 for Calvillo, and look at the amount she attempted, 118. She attempted 83, 118, and 132 strikes. That's bananas. Percentage means nothing to me. I mean, obviously you don't want to waste your energy, but landing strikes is what's important, and she outlanded her. Calvillo was standing in the pocket, keeping the range. Godinez was landing some hard shots this last round with a left high kick as well and a big right hand. Godinez keeping up the pace with Calvillo this round. She did a way better job landing the harder shots. This last round's close, but I would give it to Godinez with the damage. I could see it going either way because Calvillo outlanded her, and we can see it right here, 48-36 in terms of significant strikes landed in favor of Calvillo. I would not be upset if someone gave it to her, but Loopy Godinez on my card, she took it because she did more damage. You want to look at the scorecards here. They are all over the place. All right, so we've got Eric Colon giving Loopy Godinez the first round, obviously. So all 3 judges gave that first round to Godinez, rightfully so. That's a good call. This second round here was a split round for some reason. I don't see that one. Yeah, why did Eric Colon give her the second round? What? Why did they... No, not Eric Colon. Why did Alicio Rodriguez and David Torelli give the second round to Loopy Godinez? That's wrong. That's just wrong. That's bad. This is what I'm talking about here. You got to dig into what the decisions were. Just because you agree with the overall decision doesn't necessarily mean that the judges saw what you saw. Because I didn't see Godinez getting that second round, and Eric Colon is the only one who saw Calvillo gave the right person that second round, in my opinion. Again, look at these striking numbers, 38-32. She did land the more damaging strike. She kept out in front the entire time. Godinez was slowing down. So Godinez was playing catch up in that round. She was never out in front. I do not see how they gave that round to her. I don't think she landed as hard of strikes in that second round either. I think that is unwarranted. And then the third round, the third round I could see going either way, and David Torelli giving that third round to Godinez. It wouldn't have mattered on his card because Godinez won the first 2 already. So that 30-27, I did not see that. And then these other 2, so Eric Colon, I could see his card. It makes sense to me. I understand it. Alicio Rodriguez, that card can make sense. No, it can't because of the second round. Yeah, that should have been Calvillo. Calvillo should have won this fight. If Alicio Rodriguez got that second round right, she should have won. I don't get it. And this one had implications too, guys. Cynthia Calvillo's ranked 15. She's going to take her number. She's going to move into the rankings because of this. Again, I scored it for Godinez. Don't get it twisted. I in my opinion, the right person got the win. I just don't think it's because they scored it correctly. This is the problem. This is why you got to dig into the scorecards. You can't just say, "Oh, the judges got it right, therefore I'm not going to look into it anymore." And now the judging's all better and kumbaya, and we'll all move on from here. No, they could be fucking up just the same. It's just it's disguised because they somehow asininely get the freaking decision right, which is what we just saw there. I know this isn't as egregious because these rounds were competitive. It wasn't a one-sided beatdown that they got wrong. But this is when you need the judges to be on their shit. This is when you need them to be on their A game. Is for fights like this. We can all score a beatdown. Everybody can score that. Okay? Watching a guy's teeth get kicked in and beat pillar to post for 25 or 15 minutes, we can all score that. Come on now. We see a guy being dominated on the ground. We can score that. It's competitive fights like this when they're standing up and judging who's landing more damage and who's landing more shots, paying attention to the details, because I don't think they did. Man, this is not where I thought that was going to go. I do remember this now. But that's the thing is because I'm looking at these scorecards for the first time, so I unrightfully or I assumed, right, that because they scored it for Godinez, they must have had the same card I had. No, all three judges were all over the place. And Eric Colon is the one who disagreed with me as far as like the outcome, and I agree with his card the most. Holy moly. Good fights, though. The fights are good regardless of the decision. So, that might make you upset, but I do recommend going back and watching these. They're all action-packed. Lots of stuff on the feet. Any of the grappling was momentary or active. The Calvillo fight's good. Meerschaert fight's good. Waterson-Gomez fight's good. And then the Gastelum fight's good. They're all good, guys. If you didn't watch these prelims, these are something I would put on at some point, maybe when you're doing the dishes or, you got them on in the background while you're cleaning up the house or something. Catching. If nothing else, go and watch the Chris Curtis, Kelvin Gastelum fight. For what they laid out in there, and they left a piece of themselves in that octagon. I think they deserve your viewing time. I really do. It means, I know it probably doesn't mean anything to them, and they don't know who the hell I am, but I think you should do them the honor of at least watching, the performance that they put on for you. If you're an MMA fan, I think that's worth your time. All right, that's it for the prelims. I'm going to split this up. So I'm going to do the early prelims in the next video. This one's already 30 minutes long, so if you made it this far, I appreciate you. It means a lot to me. Subscribe to the channel so the next video is coming out. It helps the channel, obviously, and it means a lot to me. If this is the only video you watch this weekend, I always say this, but that's so strange. I appreciate you here anyway. I really do. But if you're looking for the main card, go check that one out. That was the last video. I put out the PFL this weekend. This in the video before that. So there's plenty to watch this weekend covering the fights. I appreciate y'all for stopping by. Have an amazing week. I love y'all.